As we all know, a lot of products fail. Some say that the product failure rate is between 35 and 50%, while others that it can be as high as 95%. The fact is that there isn't a good method to assess product failure, or even a consistent definition of what product failure is to begin with. So we will never know. But the fact is that we know that it's high. Too high. And the saddest thing is, most fails could have been avoided. According to a study of failed startups, 42% of them didn't even address a market need. So, how do we reduce the chances of product failure? Well, that's what we'll see today. You see, it's important that when we develop something, we try to make sure that we're not just adding more junk to the pile of product failures. And to a large extent, product failure can actually be prevented if we put a bit more effort in the development phase. Because while it's true that some failures are related to budget, team, timing, or even sheer bad luck, it is what it is. A lot of product failures come from people not listening to what potential customers value. And those are sad failures that could have been avoided if only market research had been properly conducted prior to development. Not just conducted, properly conducted. Huge difference. Anyway, today we're going to go over what you need to get from market research to properly inform product development and marketing strategy development so that you decrease dramatically the chances of developing a product failure. But before we start, a very quick note. Never confuse data with information. What we want to get from market research is information. Information that we can use to guide our actions, to make decisions, to build strategy. Data we cannot act upon is useless. It might be interesting to know, after all, as humans we are a very curious species, but from a strategy development standpoint, it's just noise, and it wastes time that could be better invested elsewhere. So, now that that one is out of the way, what exactly do we need to get from market research for successful product development purposes? Keep in mind that the goal here is to develop a product that people want to buy at a price that is profitable to you. So, to increase chances of success, products need a value creation strategy, a value communication strategy, and a value capturing strategy. What I call the revenue maximization triangle or value triangle. I have a video specifically on this. If you want to take a look, I'll leave the link in the description box. But moving on, what we therefore need from market research is information that helps us creating those three strategies and creating them well. Because they're only good if together they allow us to create products that people want to buy at profitable prices. Mess up any of the three, and we may end up with products that nobody wants to buy, or at least not at a profitable price. Let's then go into what we need to get from market research to develop each of these three strategies. 1. What we must get from market research to inform our value creation strategy development. If we want to develop a product that our target customers want to buy, one of the things we need to find out is what criteria our target customers take into account when deciding to buy a product like ours. We need to understand what would drive someone to buy something similar to our product and what would deter that purchase. Are people looking for specific features, or a service level, or a price level maybe? We need to find out what a hypothetical product would need to have to get people interested in it, and what it shouldn't have because having it would decrease purchase likelihood. This information could potentially help us modify our product to match what people are seeking. Then we will need to find out what people think about the product we intend to create. We need to figure out what people value the most and least about our envisioned offer, what they consider to be positive and negative aspects, and specifically what are the yes and the no way features. I have a video on the importance and purpose of identifying these, so if you want more on that topic, I'll leave the link in the description. So, in terms of value creation, at the end of this research, we should have information that allows us to identify mainly 1. What features should be built, and if applicable, what features should be built first, and which ones can wait for future versions. This is intertwined with the value capturing strategy though, so we will come back to it in a few minutes. And 2, if there are any market segments product-wise. That is, potential customer groups that are looking for such different feature combinations that they would be better served if we developed several different products instead of one-size-fits-all kind of offering. And if this sounds a bit daunting right now, don't worry, there are very simple standard questions that we can use to test this, and I'll share the most important ones in an upcoming video. It's much simpler to implement than it may sound at first. Anyway, let's move on to our second strategy of the revenue maximization triangle. So, 2. What we must get from market research to inform our value communication strategy development. Well, very briefly put, we want to understand what are the key value claims that we should be using in our marketing materials. Because there's no point in developing sophisticated marketing funnels or even paying for ads if what we're saying isn't what will drive people to become interested in our product. It's great to have a strategy in terms of how we will deliver our marketing messages to our potential customers, but we also must have a strategy in terms of what we will be saying to them. And that's what we need to figure out here. We need to find out what value claims resonate the most with our target customers, whether those claims are credible, and what we can do to make them credible if they're not there yet, when possible. Sometimes it just isn't. You're not going to convince me that a light bulb will last 10 years. No matter how good it is, I may drop it. And who will I complain to if it lasts only 9? No. Some value claims just won't fly. Anyway, we should also try to figure out if we can take advantage of any framing effects, or whether we need to address any potential customer inferences. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, framing and inference are 2 psychological effects that can be quite powerful when it comes to marketing, and that I'll go over in a video in this market research video series. So if you don't want to miss it, don't forget to subscribe. Anyway, at the end of this market research, we should have information that allows us to identify mainly 1. What value claims and messages we want to be using in prominent places in our marketing materials. And 2, if there are any different market segments communication-wise. That is, groups of potential customers that we might need to communicate with differently, because they're seeking different things. Note that these communication-based segments may or may not coincide with product-based segments. Ideally they would, because life would be so much simpler, but that may not be the case. Anyway, I'll go deeper into this in the video specifically about the value message testing, so let's move on to 3. What we must get from market research to inform our value capturing strategy development. So, at the end of our market research, we should have information that allows us to identify 1. Achievable price ranges. For example, at what price you can get an easy sale, and up to what price can you go if you want to put some effort into value selling. Note that simply asking how much would you pay for this product is a bad idea. It's not enough to build a strategy, and the data obtained will be, well, quite frankly, very poor quality. Anyway, if you want a basic idea of how to gauge for achievable prices, check out my video about the 5 questions you must ask to price a product. That one is already up and linked below. On top of that, if it's relevant to your situation, you should also collect information regarding whether people would be willing to accept a non-typical pricing model, if you want to go there. I'm afraid I don't have a video on pricing models yet, but my video about pricing strategies touches it briefly and it might help. Again, link in the description. But going back to our value creation strategy and its entanglement with the value capturing strategy, our market research exercise should also provide information regarding what features should be built, considering not just what people say they want, but also what they're willing to pay for. Because the features we build should serve at least one of 2 purposes: allow to make a sale or increase people's willingness to pay for the product. If a feature doesn't do either, we may want to consider skipping it. Why would we build something that doesn't help making a sale nor increase achievable price? That's a waste of resources. Common practice, but still not exactly smart. And this is why it's important to test the value creation value communication and value capturing strategies combined. One influences the other. They're completely intertwined and cannot be built separately. Anyway, there are a few more things that we should get from market research prior to product development if we want to maximize our chances of product success, but these really are the main ones in my opinion. I'll be publishing more in-depth videos over the next few weeks where I'll go over implementation, dig deeper into these subjects, and cover some others that I'm not including here. So, to start, in my next video, I'll go over what we should do before we start talking to potential customers about our product. Because successful market research starts with solid preparation. And preparation is actually the hardest part, the most important step, and the one that people usually get wrong. So, see you in my next video. Bye!